What's up, y'all? See y'all. I hope everybody's having a good evening so far. This is for discussion. Every word heard for the culture itself. No gimmicks. Just vibe. So let's ride. We live. Appreciate you for the time. You are now listening to For Discussion. What's up, everybody? It's been a minute, obviously. We all know that. It's been a while since you've seen me. But I'm glad to be back in front of the camera, man. I'm glad to put on this for everybody like I've been doing. Really quick, as always, when we first kick out with everything, we got to shout out the sponsors. So shout out to Pasadena Classic. Of course, another great hoodie. New line just dropped. Make sure y'all go cop that. Pick that up. Also, exclusively at Roman's Bookstore. P is for Parade. So y'all got to go check out that line, too, that dropped there. Also, other sponsor, Euphoria. Make sure you guys tap in with that Euphoria at Euphoria11. Pick up your feminine hygiene products. Ladies, gentlemen, Christmas is coming around. Talk to the sponsors. Get those gifts going. Lastly, great book out now. Involved in college curriculum, high schools, nonprofit organizations. The Becoming of Her by one of our very own guests, Desiana Torres. You guys make sure to go cop that book. We definitely tap in with the discussion that I had with her on this book. It's a great book, whole situation. Talks about her upbringing, and she puts it all so eloquently in, journal writing. So everybody can relate to her whole get down where she came from. Great read. It's a great book. Make sure you guys pick that up. Tap in with my sponsors. Today's guest, straight out, man. What can I say about this young man other than what we already know? An author, an activist, now running for seat at the council, man. I'm going to just bring him in. We're going to talk. We're going to rap a little bit about what he's got going on. Mr. Brandon Lamar, going through, my guy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming through.
Yes, sir.
Have a seat. Man. It's a second time on the platform, man.
Yeah.
Second time on the platform, man. This time everything's a little bit different.
Yeah. The seat is more cushiony and feels good. So
a lot of people want this, man. You're one of two. Only two people got this, man.
Hey,
so,
I appreciate it.
So definitely, man. Look, man. Obviously, big things coming up in January, right? We definitely want to give you the space to talk about some of these things, man. We're gonna go over a couple things, talk about what you stand for, how you came, man. Just doing. But for the people, man, that don't know who you are, before we even get into that, man, who missed the first one, tell the people who you are, man.
Brandon Lamar, born in Los Angeles, raised in Pasadena. My whole life has been here. Family's here. Community stuff that I've been involved in is here. And so, I'm just a humble servant that is a voice to either the voiceless or people who feel like they don't have a voice. And that's just simply what it is.
Absolutely, man. Shameless plug, really fast. Shout out Hood Liberation for the sweater. Definitely for the hood, by the hood. Definitely have to shout them out. Another prior guest, good people, good business, obviously, man.
Just picked it up today, by the way.
Right? Obviously, man, like you said, you were born in LA, raised in Pasadena, man. Talk to me a little bit about some of the early experiences, man, that shaped you and your childhood.
Yeah, so I was born actually during the Rodney King riots, like right in the middle of the Rodney King riots. I was born at King Drew Hospital in Watts, and so my birth mother actually came down there, and she gave birth to me, and then my godparents came and got me, and so I was raised by my godparents.
Wow.
Who actually I was raised by them. Since I was born, they had me, but I actually got legally adopted to them at the age of 14. So a lot of people don't know that story. That's really like a shutdown story. But yeah, man, that's been my whole life. It's just, seeing what happened to Rodney King and knowing that I have a part of that history or a piece of that history, but also understanding the lineage in Pasadena, history of Pasadena, not only when it comes to police brutality, not only comes to civic engagement, community engagement, our relationship between the community and the police department, or even our relationship between community and politicians, or even the different programs that we need, or even housing that's, here in Pasadena. And so I feel that there's so many needs in Pasadena. But my whole trajectory in life is really, if you're going to talk about the problems, you have to have a solution to go with those problems.
Absolutely.
And so if you don't have a solution, or you're not looking for a solution, then you shouldn't be talking, or you shouldn't have nothing to say about it. And so some things that people see me doing now is really just me trying to figure out what those solutions are and putting those things into place.
Absolutely, man. And that's so true. Everybody's got to say, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, we should have did this. We should have did that. We should have did that. But there's no action behind it. You know what I'm saying? There's not even a suggestion to a solution. It's always a shoulda, woulda, coulda, man. So
Exactly.
it's definitely great, man. And growing up and, being born at that time and experiencing that, the Rodney King riots, and then the aftermath of that, man,
Yeah.
it will definitely shape you to being, who you've become, obviously, man. So that makes a lot of sense. High school graduate, John Muir High School, Staines House. I went to Marshall, so that really don't even count. Criminal justice, criminal behavior degree, man, Azusa Pacific. Other than the Rodney King riots, man, what other influence drew you to that, man? Social justice and just criminal behavior.
So, this is another plug. So I actually, when I started high school, I went to a charter high school named Rhythm of the Village.
Okay.
The Shakuras actually did that school. And halfway through the semester, I went to John Muir. Spent John Muir the rest of that semester, and then I actually started traveling. So I started traveling and doing some stuff nationally. And so I left John Muir, and my sophomore year, I started going to Opportunities for Learning. I graduated from Opportunities for Learning. And that's just because, opportunity after opportunity started hitting. I was on the road, and I spoke and did some openings for Maya Angelou, did some openings for Hill Harper, and stuff like that. And so because of that, couldn't go to like a regular high school. But but criminal justice. I picked criminal justice because everybody was doing it at the time. Either at that time, everybody wanted to be a probation officer, or everybody wanted to, criminal justice was one of those easy things, because it was easy for us because, especially with our color and our history, we all about criminal justice. Everything, if we're one on the other side of the table, then we're the ones being arrested, we're the ones going to court, we're the ones in the juvenile justice system or in our court system, period, being that African Americans has the highest rate of conviction, has the highest rate of being arrested, has the highest rate of being pulled over. And so, that's really why I got started. But then I switched halfway to organizational leadership, because I found my calling not so much into the criminal justice system, but I found my calling more into actually training those people who actually work with our young people. And that's what I do now in my current position. I train adults, I train people to actually go out and work with our young people who have been dealing with traumatic experiences, who have been dealing with traumatic history. And so that's what I do. And that's, typically what I've been called to. And so that's why you see a lot of the stuff that I've been doing now, like the protests that we've been doing all last year, and the civic arrests that we've been doing all last year, is really because I have a heart for my community. And I think that, one of my callings in life is to push more millennials out to actually be a voice for their community. No matter what what you got caught up in when you was a teenager, when you got caught up in as a young adult, your voice still matters, your vote still matters. Exactly. And so that's one thing that we have to really understand, is that our vote is really our voice. And a lot of us get mad at the people who sitting at those seats, but the reality of it is, if you don't vote, you still voting for somebody.
Exactly.
And that's why you have what you have at those seats.
Exactly. And that's the hard part for most people. That's actually the hard part, is they don't seem to comprehend that not voting is still a vote.
Yeah.
And it's not a voting direction for you.
Right.
I want to go back, though, because we're not just going to glide over it. There's always a segment in every discussion that I have where somebody tries to glide over something really huge. So, Maya Angelou, Hill Harper, brother. Yeah. I mean, that's big. You know what I mean? All praises due and all respect to the late, great Maya Angelou. But how was that? Or were you too young to really comprehend what was going on with that?
I was 16 years old when I actually got into it. I went.
Oh, so you weren't young at all. So you were fully aware.
Yeah, fully aware of it. 16 years old, and I was with Children's Defense Fund, and she was one of the speakers. And then the director or the CEO of Children's Defense Fund, Mary Wright Element, who is like huge in the civil rights era. Mm-hmm. She's still alive today. But she let certain people have meetings with Maya Angelou. That meeting turned into, family. Right. And so I spoke for her a couple of places. She did a domestic violence event in San Francisco, like 5,000 people spoke there with her. And so, it was just connections and, really speaking on my truth, speaking on the instances and the problems that we're having in our communities, not just locally, but nationally as well. And one of the biggest things for us was the school to prison pipeline. As so many of our young people have been arrested at school age mm-hmm. and inside of their schools and, can't get over that. Right. And so, that's really how it started. But then before that, it was my grandma. Right. My grandma was well known in Pasadena. She was a pastor. And so she did everything from, working with our gangs to doing gang funerals to doing speaking at City Hall to working with the police chief and City Council and all kind of other stuff to bring us to the place that we are now. So she was really one of my role models before the Maya Angelous, before the Hill Harpers, before, my community people. So, her, that was my foundation. Her and my parents, my foundation.
Absolutely. That's big, man. And that kind of ties into the next question. Faith and community have always been your structure. To the prior episode, that's been your thing. You said several times here, I have a calling. Why are those two things so important to you and so strong? The other part of that question is who instilled them in you, which you've already answered, your grandmother and your parents. But why are those two things so important to you? Especially when you talk and you look at that as running for this seat. Why are those two things important?
Well, faith is number one for me because I think without faith, we can't do anything.
Right.
And a lot of us, some people are not religious and they don't do all the other kind of stuff, which is fine. It's cool. At the end of the day, most stuff that you do in the morning or the stuff that you do throughout your day has to require faith, right?
Absolutely.
Anytime you sit on that seat, you
Absolutely.
have faith that seat going, keep you up. Or, you start your car, you have faith that car going to start, you keeping up the stuff. And so it's that faith that moves it. So faith is number one for me. Every single day, everything that I do has to do with my faith, has to do with my belief in God. And I believe that, when times get hard or when situations become overpowering, it's my faith in God that keeps me going, that keeps me grounded, that lets me know that that anything that I'm doing is something bigger than me. Right? Mm-hmm. Something my grandmother always told me and instilled in me. Brandon, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. And that's every time something happened or every time, I was getting ready to speak somewhere, it's bigger than you. And so that's the really, if you have faith, you also have humility. Because you have to lower yourself and you have to humble yourself to actually enable or actually build up your faith into a place to where you can actually act out on it. Right? So faith is number one for me. Anything I do has to do with faith. Number two is community. My whole model right now is community first. And that's why I'm big on community. I believe in the village. Whatever your village is, I believe in it. I believe in community. I believe in togetherness. I believe that we can go further as a community, but also in unity as well. And that's one thing that we have to actually contend with now is bringing that unity part back into the community. My whole thing is I believe that the community has solutions to the problems that we are seeing every single day. The only thing is the people that are in power don't listen to the solutions that the community is saying. So faith and community is number one for me. Number one, number two.
Absolutely. So there's something in the faith part, and I've had this discussion. You know who you are, the two of you, okay? And we talk about faith, and I say that all the time. Faith is in everything you do. Yeah. It's very hard to discredit faith because it's in everything you do. Like Brandon said, when you sit down, when you start the car, it's all faith. You might not realize it mentally that that's what it is, but it's faith. So that's a double down. You know who you are when we talk about this conversation. When you watch this, you're gonna go back and go over that, man, and you're gonna be like, yeah, okay, I got it. But yeah, I appreciate the double down, definitely.
Yeah.
Mentoring, man. Obviously, like you said, your calling. You know, you strongly believe that this is your calling. It's something that you're passionate about 100%. Who are some of your early mentors, and what did you take away from them to give back to others?
Some of my mentors, of course, is my parents. My father, his work ethic. My father literally pays till this day, even on his retirement and on his union retirement check. That brother get multiple checks. But even on that, still this day, he pays all the bills in his household. And so, you know, his work ethics, how he treated my mother, how he treated his family is, you know, number one for me. That's where I get it from. That's the reason why I have the respect that I have, and what I can do. Of course, my mother, bringing the family together, and bringing that home feeling to where we are. My grandparents, but going into community, people like Gary Moody, people like Horace Wormley, people like Prentice Dietrich, who, you know, did some stuff way back in the day. There's so many people that we can name in our community that, I mean, especially in the black community. And it's so sad that there's a lot of stuff that I've experienced as a kid or growing up that you really don't experience no more. Just from, you know, going to Jackie Robinson Park, or, you know, just being around the basketball games or the baseball games or the football games, and you having that whole community there. People that look like you, people that think like you, people that's been here, that's from here, that families are here. You know, a lot of it you don't see no more. I mean, the sad thing is a lot of stuff you don't even see on the street no more. I mean, we used to play tackle football in the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street.
In the middle of the street. And you don't see that no more, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, community and mentors. That's, you know, where I come from. I think one thing that I love about mentors is I think everybody needs a mentor. Because typically mentors, good mentors, because there's a balance. There's bad mentors and there's good mentors. Right. But good mentors can actually see further than you can actually see. Because they've been through some stuff, they've experienced some things, and so there's some things. And so the thing for me is, growing up, I was the kid that learned from other people's mistakes. I didn't have to learn and do what other people did, because if you did something and you got caught, I wasn't doing it. Like, I didn't want to go through that stuff. So I was the person that I learned through, you know, those type of things. And so I think that's what mentoring is all about, is actually when you go off the road, your mentors have enough strength and enough wisdom to pick you back up, place you on that road so you can keep going. Absolutely. And so I think everything in our lives has to do with a mentor. I do have one overall mentor. Shout out to Pastor John DeCure. But, you know, I have a mentor for finance. I have a mentor for community. I have a mentor for politics. I have a mentor for my job. I have a mentor for my business. But then, like I said, I have a mentor for overall everything. And mentors really just give wisdom. And so, you know, my thing is, if you don't have a mentor, look for one. If you don't know where to look, go out of the places that's outside of your comfort zone. Right. Because oftentimes mentors that we have take us out of that comfort zone that we're in to put us in places and open up doors for us that we couldn't normally open up for ourselves.
Right. And that's heavy. Couple key things to take away from that. One, you can never have too many mentors straight out the gate, right? Shout out to Gary Moody, Big Moody. Shout out to Horace Wormley. Both. Both. Junior and senior, 100%. Junior is doing super great work right now. And Big Horace has always been, you know, just a local face. So shout out to them. Another key thing to take away from that is, if your mentor is not opening doors for you to see past what you grew up in, then switch mentors. Yeah. Switch mentors immediately, right? Like Brandon said, they should be able to open doors for you and just give you a different outlook for the whole everything, where you need to go, where you need to be, where you're trying to get to. That mentor should be putting you in the right places for that. So that's big. That's definitely key, man. These are key jewels that you're dropping. I don't want to botch this. Chair of Human Relations Commission, right? For those that do not know, What is this, and why is this an important role that you have?
Yeah. So, I mean, I just call it a title to add to the resume.
Gotcha.
But honestly, human relations has to do with everything in relations to Pasadena and the community of Pasadena. And so the commission that I sit on, of course, is human relations, but we deal with equity, we deal with racial equity, we deal with unity in our community, we deal with forms that has to do with the development of our community when it comes to people. So if there's situations or things that are happening in our community, our commission deals with stuff like that. We used to have, a long time ago, a part of the police commission or the police oversight commission, but since we have a new police oversight commission, our commission doesn't take on that no more. So it's really, like I said before, it's really a position to be the voice for the community. We have an ear to City Council and to the mayor and to other places, and so we're really that voice that bridges the gap between community and city.
Right, that's huge, because that's definitely needed. Definitely. We always got to have a segue into, what needs to be said.
Yeah.
Our voice versus what they understand.
Right.
So having that, man, that's a huge seat to have. Definitely. You made the decision, I want to say October, to run for city council.
Yeah.
Over the 3rd district of Pasadena, which I thought was interesting, because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, no.
So for people
You're
like me,
sitting in the 3rd district.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people like me, what is the 3rd district of Pasadena?
Dope. It's not surprising to me because a lot of people actually don't know their districts or where they live or even where they're at, which is fine. It's just totally cool. Like, who wants to look up stuff like that, right? So District 3 is actually everything, and it goes a little bit up above Los Robles over to El Molino, but everything south of Washington, from El Molino all the way over to the freeway, is District 3.
Okay.
So, and some of that is District 5 too, but like Summit, Raymond, Garfield, Los Robles, Jackie Robinson Park, Jackie Robinson Center, Community Arms, Kings Villages, all the way down to Holly Street apartments, down Holly City Hall, Police Department, Courthouse, all that City Hall. All that is District 3 as well. Wow. So District 3 actually encompass a lot of stuff. Parsons.
Wow.
So all that is District 3 too.
Wow. So
all that is like 3 communities.
Exactly.
In one district.
Exactly. In all notable places.
Yeah.
Very, very big notable places at that. That's wow. That's
so
crazy.
all that is District 3.
Yeah. Well, that answers part of the next question, which is why did you choose to run for District 3?
Yeah.
But just at this time, where most would consider it a complicated time, divisive.
Yeah.
What in October sparked you to say, I got this. I'm finna run for this. What was it about? What made you just turn that gear on and say, I'm gonna run for this? Let me rephrase the question. What did you not see in the 3rd district that you said, I gotta take care of this?
That's a good question. And every time I answer it, it seems like, I have the same answer, but it gets more complex. Number one, I feel like Pasadena has a lot of recycled leaders. And when I say that, it's, some people hear it as being controversial or, but I say it as being real. We have a lot of recycled leadership, meaning we use the same people over and over again. We see the same faces over and over again. And typically, we're very big on, let's grow up the next leaders. Let's build the next leaders. Let's help them out. Let's push them out, this and that and the other. But when it's time to pass the baton, nobody wants to pass it. Or they want to pass it on their timing. Right? And so the reason why I decided to run for city council, and I made a decision before October. Okay. And the reason why I actually decided to run is because I felt like now is the best time for new perspectives, for new ideas, for intriguing thoughts that we probably haven't heard before. But ultimately, going back to one of my initial points before, is I believe in community first. All the way back to where I believe that the community has solutions that the city does not want to hear or are overlooking, that that we can actually engage in to better our community or to help advance our community. And so I think that's the biggest thing. That's number one, is community first. And I believe that, look, man, in the last 4 weeks now, we done had about 14, 15 shootings. That's too many.
Yeah.
One is too many, if
One
you
is
really
too
want to
many,
look at it. And not only that, we're not just having shootings, but we're losing lives.
Right.
We just lost a 13-year-old. We lost Jamal on Summit, and the list goes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's, a big issue. But not only that, but our homeless population is rising. Our mental health population is rising. Economic development is at a balance, but still you see more people quitting their jobs and leaving their jobs or not even getting paid enough money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, opportunity is not presenting itself, especially for those people who made mistakes in life,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those people who have felonies. Where are the opportunities for them, right?
Right.
And so I feel like, with those ideas and perspectives, we have to go back to the root of the matter. And so, yeah, man, that's really the reason why I'm going and running for city council, is because I believe that we have to have practical and tangible solutions to our problems that we can actually, instead of promises, man.
Right.
I think we're all sick of promises,
Right.
and
Right.
we have to do things. I'm saying it now. If I can't work towards it, or if I can't do it and make a progress in it, I'm not going to promise it to nobody.
Right.
And so the whole plan is to get out there and to also to push people to get outside of their norm and get involved in their community.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many people that live here
Right.
that is not involved in their community.
Right.
It's so many, like our millennial, the like us, people like us, we just don't vote locally.
Right.
And
They
then
don't
we
even
get,
know how. A lot of them don't
right.
know how.
And then we get upset with the people who are sitting in these seats, but they're sitting in those seats because we either don't vote,
Right.
or we just wasted time.
Right.
So I commission everybody to get out there, learn your district, know who your
Right.
representative is, and challenge them. I'm all for accountability. If I do something wrong, I have people that right now, if I say something wrong on this thing, after this thing is over, they're going to call me and be like, yo, what was you talking about? You feel me? That's accountability.
Right.
And so we have to go back to that accountability in our entire city. If you sit up here, and I'm not speaking to anybody personally, but if you're sitting up in a position and you say you were going to do something and you don't perform that, then there has to be accountability behind what you said you were going to do.
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. There's too many promises without action.
Right.
And like you said, there's so many shootings going on, and some of these things, as we know, possibly could be prevented.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just through having solutions through the community. But again, like you said, if no one's talking to the community, then
Right.
it is, hey, there's a disconnect right there. Which is a perfect segue into what I was going to talk about. The next thing is actively an activist. You've been on the front lines, rallies, everything with the mayor, big on policing and criminal activity, big on community violence, and just trying to get those things fixed. Like you said, you stated multiple times here, there has to be a different way. There has to be a different effect, a different way to get a more relatable solution. Do you really feel that way?
I do. And here's why I feel that way. Anytime a shooting happens, you have two victims. You have the person who's committing the crime who's also a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're a victim to a system that is not going to benefit them at all.
Okay.
And then you have the victim that actually the person who actually got shot, right?
Okay.
So in the community only looks at the person that we lost because they either got shot or they died behind that shooting, or now they're in the hospital, right? For me, in my lens, I looked at two people that we lost.
Okay.
We lost a person to the system, and we also lost a person to death or another statistic. So now we have two statistics that we just gained and two people that we lost in our community.
Mm.
Two things that we could have prevented, two things that, we could have helped. Not saying that, everything is prevention or everything could be prevented, but we could have done our part to do it.
Right.
What do you mean by that? Here's the thing. I think that there actually needs to be, and this goes to my focuses, I think that there needs to be more prevention programs in our city. Prevention meaning that these programs are not just prevention led for 3 to 5 years and they're funded for 3 to 5 years, but these programs have to have longevity.
Okay.
There's a program that I used to be a part of. I was a lead outreach worker. I worked there for the City of Pasadena called the Neighborhood Outreach Workers Program.
Okay.
No longer. It hasn't been around since 2013 because of the loss of funding. When that program was actually in existence, our crime rate in Pasadena went down 40%. Right? Stuff, it works. The number says it works. There's a program out now that are going on. Some of the things that I do around the country is look at different violence prevention programs and how it works in their cities. And so there's a thing called Credible Messenger that they have in Chicago, that they have in San Francisco, that they have in Oakland, that they have in Baltimore, that they have in Washington, D.C. And Credible Messenger is just like the NOW program that was in 2013. But now, with the Credible Messenger, it's showing at a decrease in crime rates in communities, 40 to 60%. And what they do, they actually take people who have done crimes, who have gotten their life together or whatnot, and they're actually putting those people on the street to make a difference in the community, right? So stuff like that are happening. We need prevention programs. We need programs that are connected. But not only that, let's move on to, and I mean, there's more I can say about,
Right.
that public safety part. But let's move on to economic development, right? Let's move on to jobs. Right. That we have to start having more jobs for people with felonies. Mm-hmm. We have to start having more jobs. And not only that, but I believe that there are companies and there are businesses that are locally in Pasadena who do not have an opportunity to get contracts from the city.
Right.
And so I believe that before we go outsourcing these contracts with economic development, we just renewed a contract or we just upgraded a contract with a security company for Jackie Robinson Center. How many security companies do we know about in Pasadena, right? And so that money could have went to, or that contract could have went to a company locally, and that's how we start recycling our money, because it's not only a company in Pasadena, but they're also hiring people from Pasadena, right? So I think that needs to start happening as well. The last thing I'll say about economic development is I believe that any contract or any development, or whether it's construction or anything, it needs to be 50% of the people needs to be hired from Pasadena. That's just me. We have to go back to recycling our money and creating opportunities that are here, that are local. And you might have the argument, well, maybe people don't apply. Maybe people don't know how to apply. So how do we help them to apply? How do we create outreach opportunities, right? The last thing, and it all this encompassed together, is housing. We have to fix our housing problem. And there's a lot of controversy about it, but I believe I was the first person who ever said, as a politician, that they're going to be focusing on rent control in Pasadena. And rent control is definitely huge here.
It is.
Because our rent for a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom is skyrocket, but you not only have that rent that you have to pay, you have that car note, you have insurance that they want you to have. Most people ain't got no insurance because they can't afford it.
Exactly.
But they want you to have insurance. Then you got to provide for your family. You got to get food. You got to get their clothes, gas that you got to pay, all this stuff that you got to pay. And then you have to live your life, right? Which you cannot do it. You can't do it now in Pasadena. So many people are struggling just to pay their rent. And then not only that, but it's also affordable housing. Meaning that, you can get kicked out your place, but if you get kicked out your place because you couldn't afford to pay your rent, you don't even have money to get to the next place because you got to pay first and last, right? And so we have to do something with that. We have to do something. We have to have rent control in Pasadena. And then the last thing I'll say is that there's churches that are right now fighting to change the zoning laws in Pasadena to actually help them build affordable housing on their lots. So there's a lot of churches here that have plenty of parking that wants to build housing for their communities. But that's not only fixing our housing problem, but it's also fixing our economic development problem. Because once those houses are built, there's jobs in construction, but then also somebody's going to have to keep up those homes or, do programming. And so it's so much stuff that's connected to it. And I know I just said a mouthful. But all that, I believe, is going to help advance us to the next point in our community. And I think that's huge. And those are the main reasons why people need to vote. You have to vote because if your people, the people who are representing you, are not speaking your language, then we can't continue to sit here and just let things just slide by and say, well, maybe, it'll change. Change will happen in the next 10 years. No, change is now. Yeah. Leadership across America is changing. Not only just here, leadership across America is changing. Yeah. And so we have to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question, you just tackled all of that, right? We were going to talk about your points, the key points of your campaign, the whole nine, which is obviously why you do what you do, because you get straight to the point. I think in all of that, you said so much in such an amount of time, a limited amount of time, right? Where you talk about how everything, every one of your key points ties in to the solution, right? How do you get to the solution? Because obviously, if you take the seat, there's systems in place that you have to, quote unquote, uproot, right? So how does that go over?
The first thing is community. One thing the community has to understand is that your people that you put in place, the people that you vote for to sit in these seats, they answer to you.
Say that again.
Number one. That's the first thing. The people, the community is first. So the community, the people that you place in those seats, the people that you vote for, or the people that you don't vote for, they actually answer to you. Because at the end of the day, when it's time for them to run again, they want your vote again.
Exactly.
And so they answer to you. Your dollars are going to them and the programs that they're putting in place, or the situations or the things that they're putting in place for the community. And so number one, your voice matters. Not only your vote, but your voice matters. Meaning you have to talk to the people that you put in place. Your city council, your mayor. You have to talk to those people. You have to contend with them. If they say something that you ain't with, then you have to talk about it. You have to call in. You have to write letters. You have to do whatever you got to do because they answer to you. And that's what the community really doesn't understand is that the people that sits in those seats, they answer to you. Exactly. You're actually their boss. Exactly. How it runs is really you, the mayor, city council, city manager, and then everybody else. Exactly. And so that's what we have to go back to in the community is understanding our power and our vote, and our voice and our vote. The second thing is that it goes back to voting. We have to put people in these positions who want to see what we want to see in our community. And that's what it is at the end of the day. That's how you change it because one voice can't change it all. Exactly. Tyrone Hampton can't do it all. He been doing a hell of a job fighting for our community.
Shout out Tyrone.
Yes, sir. And he can't do it by himself. And then you have some other people that are on there that do what they do and they have a good job at it. But at the end of the day, to change that, we have to get the right people in these seats. And we have to contend with these seats. And the community has to know that they're actually the boss over this.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest things that I like to say got lost in the shuffle. Yeah. Right? Is not understanding that we are at the top of the totem pole. And it's hard to understand that when you look out your window and you see the things that are happening and say, we don't run nothing. But
the system was never designed for you to understand and know your power.
Exactly.
It was never designed for you to know your power. The system was never designed. The system was always created for you to be beneath the system, for you to be beneath the power, and for you to actually, if we actually, all the way back to Harriet Tubman days, if we actually knew the type of power that we have, you have 30 slaves sitting there, and one person with a whip.
Come on, man.
And you have one person with a whip, and that 30 slaves wasn't physically scared of that person with the whip. We was mentally scared of that person with the whip. So we can actually, if we can actually work on our mindsets and understand who we are and what we were created to do and the power that we have up here, then we can actually break down the system that was never meant for us.
And I'll say this, and I've said this multiple times, and I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for this. Kanye said something, and he didn't explain it how he should have, But there was so much truth in that. It was so much truth in that. If he would have just been able to articulate what he was trying to say,
Right.
it would have made so much sense. But of course, you know, we live in the day and age of soundbite. So they heard slavery was a choice. Kanye's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, power became fear, and just what you said, it's 30 of us is one of them. Hell no, not me. And it became a choice to stay where they were. So, you know, hey, sometimes you can't just look at the sandwich and say you don't want it. You got to look at everything in there and dissect that sandwich. And that sandwich might be edible. It might be good for you.
I mean, I look at, and I don't mean to go here, but I looked at a movie called 12 Years a Slave,
okay.
Right?
Great movie.
In that movie, they literally separated, the man had his freedom. They separated him, moved him away from everybody. And they put him in a dungeon for about almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they fed him crap. They put all kind of stuff in there for a whole year. They tore his mental down. They tore him down completely. After that year, now he finds himself being sold to slavery.
Mm-hmm.
This man was once free, but it took them a year to break him all the way down to actually get to that place. Yeah. How long, for generations, have us as brown people, as black people, as a community, period, have we been torn down for so long for them to put us into a place of saying, here, this is what we're going to give you.
Right.
Not what you accept. Exactly. This is what we're going to give you. And then not only that, we're going to put a liquor store. We're going to put 3 liquor stores on every corner. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you a Church's chicken. We're going to give you a McDonald's. We're going to give you a Popeye's chicken and all this kind of stuff. Go to East Side Pasadena or go up there by the Rose Bowl. How many of them do you see up there by the Rose Bowl? Not one.
Come on.
How many liquor stores you see? Not one. You don't see no stores up there.
Come on.
Go down there by Caltech and see how many. Have you ever been down Lake and seen any liquor stores down Lake?
That right there by Del Mar.
None of them.
Yeah, come on, man.
Go down to East Pasadena and see what they see, but then come over here to our community and see what's here, right? And so we have to look at those things, and I mean, it's not just stuff that we've been going through for the last 10 years. This is generations of stuff.
I agree. I totally agree. Of course, hood liberation will at me if I don't ask this question. I definitely think it's a double-edged sword, this question. But gentrification. Gentrification is a big thing right now. It's definitely a slippery slope because you want the investment in the community,
right,
but you want the investment in the community to look like we do. Mm-hmm. So how do we handle that situation?
There's a group in Pasadena that is called Making Housing and Community Happen, and the lady name is Jill Shook, but her biggest thing is housing for Pasadena. And one thing she says, and I'm sticking to it, so I'm using it every time. Jill, I know you ain't looking because you ain't got an Instagram, but one thing she says is we have to beautify Pasadena, not gentrify Pasadena. Mm-hmm. Beautifying and gentrifying is two different things, definitely, but it can look the same way.
That's true.
The thing is that when we beautify Pasadena and we gentrify Pasadena, the difference between both of them is who are making those investments to do it, right? Gentrification happens when people invest who has no investment in the community, but their investment in a profit, right? But if the community actually comes together and invests in their community, then it's called beautification. Then we're changing some stuff. Now you got all these businesses that are thriving. Now you got housing that we want to see. Now you got the policies that we want to see in our community. So we have to go to beautifying our community instead of gentrifying our community. Also, that happens to do with city council. City councils are the people who allow the developers to come over, right, and the people that you would call that's gentrifying our neighborhoods, to allow them to come over. And here's another thing that we have to do. And I'm speaking to my people, so I can look at the camera now. My people, my black people, my brown people. This is what we have to do. We have to stop selling our property. Period.
It cannot get any more clear than that. That's what it comes down to. We have to understand if someone is offering me $1 million for a house that I don't think is worth $1 million, you have to start thinking, why are they trying to get this house for $1 million? And that automatically should let you know that this land that you have is worth more than $1 million.
Not only that, but how fast can you spend $1 million?
Listen,
I can spend $1 million tonight.
Look, I can spend $1 million in 10 minutes.
Look.
So
that's the thing, is how fast can you spend it?
Right.
How fast you can spend it is how much it's actually worth.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so when you look at selling, and you look at somebody named James Farr, me and him, that's my big brother in the community right now. I have a couple of them, but he's one of them. And, you know, I can have controversial conversations with him when it comes to housing, when it comes to all this kind of stuff. And literally the same thing he said to me in the text message is, at the end of the day, we have to stop selling.
Right.
If we want to see our prices go up and we want to see our investments go up, we have to stop selling in our communities. Right. The medium house right now in Pasadena is $1 million.
Right.
You ain't getting no lower than that. Yeah. It's $1 million. You might find a place for $800,000, but that ain't the medium. The medium, the going rate for the homes in Pasadena, I don't care if you're in the hood or you're in the best of the best, is $1 million. Yeah. I met a lady, not admitted, but a lady that she went to my grandmother's church. She bought her house years ago, 3-story house, about 4 or 5 bedroom house, and she actually lived right down the street. And her house, she bought it for $37,000 at that time. Right now, it's worth about $1.6 million.
Crazy.
So we have to stop selling our property.
Crazy. So let me ask you this: is it because we are not educated on what that really means, on land development, on people coming in to buy our property? Do you think that's the reason that when we hear, you want to give me how much? Take it. Is that where that comes from? Is just the lack of education on knowing what we have?
I don't even think yes, it's the lack of education, but also the lack of knowing what you're worth, right? I'm gonna give you this, and for return, you're gonna give me something else. But most of the people who are buying our property knows how much it's gonna be worth in a couple of years, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think what we really have to do is assess our family and educate our family on what investments we really want and need in our communities. Mm-hmm. And that's basic. Pasadena right now is 8% African American. Mm-hmm. 8. Mm-hmm. Only. And that's the entire, that's not my district. That's the entire Pasadena. Mm-hmm. It's only 8%.
And it's a trending decline right now.
And it's a trending decline. Because we ain't coming back, because our rent is $1,800 for 1 bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we have to educate our people. We have to build our people up. We have to talk about things that we don't want to talk about. We have to talk about how, you know, some of our families actually sold their house when grandma died. Y'all sold it because y'all didn't want to be connected to the house no more, or y'all sold it around the drug epidemic because somebody left you some money and that's what it was, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to talk about these things. We have to educate, but we also not only have to educate our families, we have to come back to a place of healing in our families. Mm-hmm. This is nothing political. This is healing of the families, right? Mm-hmm. We have to talk about those traumatic experiences. We have to talk about who touched you. Mm-hmm. We have to talk about who didn't help you. We have to talk about who wasn't there for you, right? Because all this stuff plays in the fact of our family healing. Mm-hmm. And that's how we get to generational wealth. Generational wealth is not something that's just tangible. Right. But generational wealth can also be a peace of mind. Right. So that you can get to those things that are tangible, right? Slaves didn't have no peace of mind. That's why they couldn't get to tangible things. They couldn't get to the freedom because it wasn't their mental was tore up. That was the first thing that they went after, was they stayed in mind. Yeah. So we have to go back to a state of healing in our communities.
I agree 100%. Healing first, and everything else will come. You can't chase the bag with your morals messed up. Yeah. It just ain't gonna work that way. We talked about a lot, man. I think the biggest question right now, as we sit here, would be, why Brandon? Why Brandon for City Council of the 3rd District of Pasadena?
Yeah, I ask myself that too every day. Yeah, I ask myself that too. And I'm not going to sit up here and say, well, why not Brandon? Because look, there's so many other people that can do it. But what I will say is, at the end of the day, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I want to see our entire community thrive, not only today, but for generations to come. I'm running so that somebody else can run. I'm running so that somebody else that has a 9-to-5 job, that has students in PUSD, I ain't got no kids by the way, but that has students in PUSD, can run. I'm running to let people know that you don't have to be retired and well set off to run. I'm running because I believe that there's so many people in our community that has the opportunity and have the mindset, have the ideas and the perspectives and the thought processes to take us to the next level, but they need somebody to just encourage them to get out there. That's totally why I'm running. I'm running because I believe that the ideas that I set before people are ideas that, we want to see together. And here's the last thing I'll say is that this is not Brandon's campaign. I tell people this all the time. This is not my campaign. This is our campaign. That's why I ask for help so many times. And I know a lot of people don't understand the whole thing about voting and campaigning and all this stuff. Campaigning takes money. Mm-hmm. Our grandparents understand that. Our older generation in Pasadena, they understand that. So it's easy for them to do it. But our younger generation, we don't really understand that part of it. Mm-hmm. Campaigning is an investment, right? And so I don't want people to see this. If you are supporting or you're looking to support me or you're looking to support us, this is not my campaign. This is our campaign. And so that's why I'm so focused on community first, because this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with us and how we and where we want to see our city go.
Yo, it don't get more realer than that. It don't. And realer's not even a word. And that's what we're gonna do. It don't get more realer than that. Yeah. Listen, that's Brandon Lamar. Tell them where they can find you. Tell them where they can vote. Tell them when the election is. Yeah. Drop all of it on them.
No, you can find me on Facebook, Brandon Dante Lamar. I just started my Twitter up today, just because I had to do some controversy stuff with Wingstop. But that's neither here. You can find me on Wingstop, Brandon. I mean on Twitter. I'm trying to be the next Rick Ross. You can find me on Twitter.
That's not a bad
Brandon Dante Lamar. You can find me on Instagram if you don't know it yet, BD Lamar. And then my website. Look, we need as much help as we can get. Honestly, on a serious note, we need people to knock on doors. We need people to call. We need people to talk to their neighbors. We need people to do everything, and we also need people to give. I'm gonna be quite frank. That's something that I don't like. I don't like begging people to give, but hey, I gotta do it in this time. So we do need people to give too. And if you want to help do anything, if you ain't got no money, you can help with your 2 feet and knock on doors. If you have 2 feet, you can roll and knock on doors too. So you can go to BrandonForPasadena.com. BrandonForPasadena.com. So simple, so easy. And let's work together to get this done.
Absolutely. And election day is
June 7th. June 7th next year.
So
2022.
So listen, it's a lot of work to be done, right? This is a product of our own environment, right? This is a platform of our own city. This platform is rooted in Pasadena, which is why it's important that we have Brandon here to talk about campaigning for this city. We all know that this man has been involved in so much groundwork to be big for some of the things that we are trying to get a handle on, some of the things that we are trying to stop in this city. Sometimes the source is not above the city. Sometimes the source sits in the city with you, sits on the couch across from you, and it's just a discussion that needs to be had, and it comes down to support. Our biggest problem in our community is we don't support each other. 100%, hands down, straight fact. This is the man for change, innovation, right? It's staring you in the face. Go back, watch all of this. Listen to what he's talking about. This is everything that affects you on a day-to-day basis. 100%. Faith is everything this man stands on. 100%. It's something that you do on your day-to-day basis. Listen, I'm not a preacher. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm not a politician. I don't know how the game works. But what I do know is this man is from the same city that I'm from, and he has a great understanding on what will work, how it can work, and the steps and the action plan to get there, to make it work for the community, not just his pocket. So, listen, for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm voting Brandon Lamar. I need all y'all to go do the same and help out with this campaign. Before we get out of here, though, special shout-out to my intro producer, B. Lamont, Bryson Haynes. Special shout-out to Ashton Hart Visuals. I want to call him Ashton Martin. I don't know why. Ashton Hart Visuals for the whole decor,
I got
man.
my own one.
Shout out to Pasadena Classic, my sponsor. Shout out to Euphoria, my sponsor. Shout out to Desiana Torres for an amazing book. And more importantly, shout out to you guys, man, for tuning in and sticking with me this whole time when I took a little vacation. I appreciate y'all. We appreciate you guys. And I'll catch you on the next round. We out.